Okay, imagine this. What if there was like a simple, definitive yes or no answer available for any question you could ask?
Hmm.
Like a way to instantly know truth from falsehood. Not, through logic or debating, but through your own body's response.
Yeah, it sounds a bit out there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that's essentially the core idea in Dr. David R. Hawkins' book, Power versus Force. He argues it's not just possible, it's verifiable.
It's a huge claim, really changes how you might think about, everything. Knowledge, reality. This
Yeah.
idea that our bodies somehow know things our conscious minds don't.
Exactly. It's quite profound. Hawkins explores this really fundamental difference between, power and force, and how they shape our lives, our world, everything.
Yeah, so our mission today is to unpack these ideas about consciousness and behavior. Hawkins suggests there are these invisible forces playing out all around us.
Right. And understanding them, he says, can be a kind of shortcut. A shortcut to being better informed, more empowered. Basically figuring out what strengthens you versus what weakens you, often without you even realizing it's happened.
So, okay, how does this bodily truth detector actually work then? Where did Hawkins even start?
Well, the foundation is something called behavioral kinesiology. It was refined by another researcher, Dr. John Diamond, back in the late 70s. It all comes down to muscle testing.
Muscle testing. Okay.
It's surprisingly simple, really. You need two people. One person, the subject, holds an arm out straight.
Okay.
The tester then pushes down gently on the subject's wrist with two fingers while the subject tries to resist. Keep the arm up.
Right.
And here's the crucial part. If the subject is exposed to a positive stimulus, something true or beneficial, the muscle tests strong. The arm stays locked, easily resists.
Stay strong. Okay.
But if the stimulus is negative, false, or harmful, the muscle suddenly tests weak. The arm just gives way, it falls, no matter how hard they consciously try to resist.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. But what kind of stimuli are we talking about?
This is where it gets really fascinating, like you said. The examples Hawkins gives in Power versus Force are really compelling. Hold a picture of Abraham Lincoln.
Strong arm.
Strong arm. Picture of Adolf Hitler.
Weak arm.
Weak arm. Every time. Say, I love you out loud.
Strong.
Strong. Say, I hate you.
Weak.
Weak. It's that direct. Even physical substances. Hold an unopened packet of artificial sweetener.
Weak arm.
Weak arm. Even if the subject has no idea what's in the packet, blind test. But hold a packet of regular sugar or, say, vitamin C.
Strong
Or
arm.
strong arm. It's like the body instantly recognizes detrimental versus beneficial.
That's wild. So it's not about what you think about the thing, but the thing itself.
Exactly. That's what Diamond found and Hawkins builds on. The results were predictable, repeatable, and universal. Didn't matter what the person consciously believed about Lincoln or sweeteners or whatever.
So personal opinion doesn't override it?
Apparently not. They even tested it with audio tapes. Play a recording of someone telling a known lie. Even if the voice sounded super sincere.
The arm goes weak.
The arm goes weak. Play tape of demonstrable truths. Strong arm. It even worked with music. Classical music, some classic rock. Strong response. But certain kinds of, heavy metal or dissonant hard rock.
Weak response.
Weak response.
Yeah.
Consistently. It's like our bodies are tuned into some underlying reality of truth or integrity.
Okay, that is profound.
Yeah.
If our bodies are these universal lie detectors or maybe integrity detectors, what's the mechanism? How does that even work?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? Hawkins leans on Carl Jung's idea of the collective unconscious, but he expands it. He calls it a database of consciousness, or sometimes spiritus mundi, the world spirit.
A database of consciousness.
Think of it like, a universal Wi-Fi network that all our consciousnesses are subtly connected to. This vast shared field of all human experience, knowledge, truth.
Like we're all logged in somehow.
Kind of, yeah. He uses the analogy of a school of fish or a flock of birds, how they move as one, instantly reacting together, even across distances. We're tapping into that shared field.
And the muscle test is the modem, the way we access it.
Sort of. Its binary nature, strong, weak, yes, no, on, off, suggests our nervous system, our body, is linked into this field, which, as Hawkins puts it, knows far more than it knows it knows.
Okay, so if someone wanted to try this, are there things to watch out for to make sure the test is accurate?
Definitely. Power versus Force mentions some practical points. You need to keep the testing situation quite impersonal, almost clinical.
Right.
Remove metal things like eyeglasses, watches, maybe even jewelry, as they can interfere sometimes. Be aware of other stimuli, strong perfumes, background noise, that kind of thing.
And the tester matters too.
Yeah, absolutely. If the tester asks the question or makes the statement with negative emotion or skepticism in their voice, That itself can influence the subject's response and make them test weak. It needs to be neutral.
Okay. And what about the person being tested? What if they're just having a bad day, feeling stressed or down?
Good. Hawkins notes that if someone's really stressed, depressed, or generally in a negative state, their thymus gland function can be affected, making the tests unreliable. They might test weak for everything.
So is there a fix for that?
Apparently, yes. Dr. Diamond found a simple technique called the thymus thump. You basically make a fist and rhythmically thump your upper breastbone, sort of in the center,
Okay.
while smiling, thinking of someone or something you love and saying ha 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 with each thump, just for maybe 10, 20 seconds.
Seriously.
Seriously. It sounds a bit strange, I know, but Hawkins reports it resets the thymus gland's polarity, allowing for accurate testing, even if someone started out stressed.
The thymus thump. Okay, adding that to my list of surprising things today.
Yeah. It's all part of ensuring the connection to that database is clear.
So, building on this kinesiology work, Hawkins developed his famous map of consciousness. Tell us about that.
Right, this is probably his most well-known contribution from the book. It's basically a numerical scale, running from 1 to 1,000,
Okay.
and it calibrates the energy level or the vibrational frequency, you could say, of different emotions, attitudes, ways of seeing the world, even spiritual states.
So, like, anger has a number, love has a number.
Exactly. Each level corresponds to a dominant emotional state, a perception of life, even a view of God.
Yeah.
And here's the absolute linchpin of the whole map,
Yeah.
the number 200. This calibrates as the level of courage. And it's the critical dividing line.
Dividing line between what?
Between negative and positive.
Yeah.
Between weakness and strength. Between what Hawkins defines as force and power. Everything calibrating below 200 represents force. It's life-depleting, makes you test weak. Everything above 200 represents power. It's life-affirming, makes you test strong.
Everyone tests weak below 200 and strong above 200. That's
Incredibly consistent, according to his decades of research with thousands of subjects. 200 is the pivot point.
Okay, let's quickly look at some of those levels below 200, the realm of force. What's down there?
At the very bottom, calibrating at 20, is shame. It's perilously close to death, spiritually speaking, associated with deep low self-esteem, banishment, and can lead to cruelty to oneself or others.
Grim.
Very. Just above that, at 30, is guilt. This is a preoccupation with sin, blame, self-recrimination. Hawkins notes it's often exploited by religious demagogues or moralists to control people. It can also provoke rage, like in societies focused on punishment rather than forgiveness.
Right. What's next?
Apathy at 50. This is hopelessness, despair, poverty, consciousness. People at this level feel like victims, helpless. Hawkins describes it as a heavy burden to society, citing places like the streets of Calcutta as embodying this energy field. Just surviving is the goal.
That really puts things in perspective.
It does. Then at 100, you have fear. Here, the world is seen as dangerous, trapping, full of threats. It's a major motivator for much of humanity, sadly. And it's the favorite tool of control for oppressive regimes, but also used constantly by media and advertising,
Yeah.
Fear sells.
True. Always something new to be afraid of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, interestingly, just below the critical line at 175 is pride.
Pride. But isn't pride sometimes seen as a good thing? Like pride in your work?
It is often encouraged socially, yes. But Hawkins calibrates it below 200 because, he argues, it's fundamentally negative. It's defensive, vulnerable, dependent on external conditions. Think of nationalism leads to factionalism, denial, arrogance, and ultimately war. Pride blocks growth because you can't face your flaws.
Okay, so it feels good, but it's still based on a sense of separation and better than.
Precisely. It lacks true inner power, which brings us above 200.
Right, the turning point. Courage at 200.
Yes. This is the first level of true power. Hawkins calls it the zone of exploration, accomplishment, fortitude, determination. Life is seen not as overwhelming, but as exciting, challenging, manageable. You start taking responsibility.
A real shift.
A massive shift.
Right.
Then at 250, neutrality. This isn't indifference like apathy. It's more like flexibility, non-judgmental assessment of problems. You're not attached to outcomes. If you don't get that job, it's okay. There'll be another one, less rigid, more objective.
I like the sound of that.
Then comes acceptance at 350. This is a major transformation. You start to understand you are the source and creator of your life experience. You take responsibility. You realize happiness comes from within. This is where harmony starts to really emerge.
A big step towards inner peace.
Absolutely. And then, at 500, we reach love.
Okay, explain this love. It's not just romantic love, right?
No, not primarily. It's unconditional love, a way of being. Hawkins describes it as focusing on the goodness of life, increasing positivity. It involves intuition, discerning the essence of things, instantaneous understanding. He even mentions a measurable endorphin release associated with this state.
Wow. And is this common?
Actually, no. Hawkins estimated only about 0.4%, less than 0.5% of the world's population ever reaches this level of 500.
That's sobering.
It is. Above love, at 540, is joy. This isn't the fleeting joy of getting something. It's inner joy, unconditional. It arises from within in all activities. This is the level associated with saints, advanced spiritual students, healers. Marked by enormous patience and persistent compassion, they have a visible positive effect on others.
Like being around them just lifts you up.
Exactly. Then, peace at 600. Here, Hawkins says, ordinary conceptual thought often ceases. There's just knowingness, a sense of omnipresence, non-duality. The separation between observer and observed, me and you, starts to dissolve. Its experience is perfection, bliss. Very rare.
And the time.
Enlightenment, from 700 to 1,000. This is the level of the great ones, the founders of major religions. Krishna, Buddha, Jesus Christ, are examples Hawkins gives. Complete identification with consciousness, with divinity. No sense of an individual personal self anymore, the absolute peak of human consciousness.
So that's the map. It's quite something. But are we just stuck where we are? Hawkins mentioned the average person only moves up 5 points in a lifetime.
That's the average, yeah, because people tend to resist change and stay in familiar, even if negative patterns. But, and this is crucial, sudden positive jumps are possible.
Oh.
By consciously choosing attitudes and actions aligned with higher energies, using kindness over criticism, forgiveness over resentment, charity, understanding, these choices literally pull you up the scale. And because the scale is logarithmic, meaning each point represents a much bigger jump in actual power as you go higher. So even a small increase in your calibrated level, like a few decimal points, can have a profoundly significant positive effect on your life and influence.
That's encouraging. Did Hawkins talk about his own journey through these levels?
He did, yeah. His own life was a kind of testament to this. He described his spontaneous experience as a child during a blizzard, feeling this overwhelming sense of peace, infinite love, knowing everything was perfect. Then later in life, as a successful psychiatrist, he developed a severe, progressive illness. Doctors considered fatal. Nothing worked. He reached a point of total despair and finally just surrendered everything to God, asked for help. And he had this profound spiritual experience, recovered completely almost overnight, and his whole perception shifted. He saw the inherent beauty and perfection in everything. His psychiatric practice exploded because people were drawn to his state.
That's incredible.
He also noticed something key. His advanced spiritual students didn't go weak when exposed to negative stimuli, unlike most people. That clued him into the power of consciousness itself to resist lower energies.
So consciousness acts like a shield, almost.
In a way, yes. He then spent 7 years in relative seclusion, deep meditation, studying consciousness, calibrating these levels. He reached very high states himself, and then faced the challenge of, how do you function normally in the world when you're perceiving reality from that elevated state?
Right. How do you integrate that?
He used this great analogy. It's like a rocket leaving Earth. It takes enormous fuel and thrust immense effort just to break free of Earth's gravity, those lower energy fields.
Yeah.
But once it escapes that pull, it needs less and less energy to travel vast distances. It moves under its own momentum, aligned with universal forces. That's like transcending the lower levels of shame, fear, anger, pride. It takes conscious effort and will initially.
But it gets easier as you ride.
That's the idea. You become less susceptible to the gravity of those negative fields.
Okay, let's bring this back to the core distinction. Power versus force. How does this play out in, say, the real world? Politics, business.
Right. So the fundamental difference, power arises from meaning, motive, principle. It appeals to best in us, the noble. It doesn't need justification. It's self-evident, like truth or beauty. It unifies. It's effortless, associated with the whole.
Like that spring you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Force, on the other hand, is concrete, linear, arguable. It always creates a counterforce, resistance. Think of pushing something it pushes back. Force polarizes, divides, relies on external pressure, and is ultimately very costly in terms of energy. It's win-lose.
Got it. Examples in politics.
Hawkins gives the classic example of Mahatma Gandhi versus the British Empire. Gandhi calibrated around 700 pure power based on principles of truth, nonviolence, selflessness.
And the empire.
Calibrated around 175 pride, operating through force based on self-interest, exploitation, military might. And power ultimately prevailed over force.
A clear case.
Another one. The principles behind the American Revolution and the U.S. Constitution. Hawkins calibrates the core ideas. All men are created equal, inherent rights around 700. Their enduring influence comes from that power.
And the opposite, systems based on force.
Dictatorships. Think Hitler, Stalin. They rely entirely on force suppression, secret police, propaganda, fear. They can't tolerate dissent because force is inherently unstable and needs constant effort to maintain control. It shows how force might seem strong, but it's brittle against true power.
Hawkins also warned about societies letting principles slide, right? Falling back on force for convenience.
Yes, he argued that when principles, like those in the Bill of Rights, say protection against unreasonable search and seizure are compromised for expediency, the inherent power of those principles diminishes. Society becomes weaker, relying more on force.
Makes sense. What about in the marketplace?
Business. He points to the U.S. auto industry's decline at one point. His research suggested it stemmed from embracing a philosophy of planned obsolescence, basically. Building things not to last, so people have to buy more. That's force.
Trying to compel sales.
Right. Contrasted with companies focused on enduring quality, that's power. Think of the reputation of Rolls-Royce, or the long life of the original VW Beetle. Quality endures because it aligns with power.
Interesting. And advertising.
Kinesiology could apparently even test ad campaigns. An ad might seem clever, but if it subtly uses manipulation or triggers negative feelings, it tests weak. It could unconsciously damage the brand's image. A strong ad creates a positive, authentic association. It shows how even subtle inputs matter.
So even marketing choices align with either force or power.
Everything does, according to this model. Even how we approach social problems.
Like the war on drugs.
Yeah, Hawkins saw that as a prime example of using force. Attacking the problem moralistically, criminalizing users, trying to coerce sobriety. He suggested a power-based approach would focus on fostering positive alternatives, making health and sobriety more attractive than intoxication, rather than just fighting the negative.
Addressing the underlying why.
Exactly. He also connected humorlessness with force. Totalitarian systems, he said, are always humorless. They need to control everything. Laughter brings perspective, acceptance, freedom, which are characteristics of power. So you'd say, beware the humorless.
Good advice. What about health? How does power versus force connect there?
Hawkins strongly believed, and wrote extensively about this elsewhere too, that many physical illnesses are rooted in consciousness, associated with underlying negative emotions, attitudes, beliefs operating below 200.
So like chronic anger could contribute to heart problems, that kind of thing.
That's the idea. He saw illness not just as a physical malfunction, but as evidence of something amiss in the workings of the mind. Treating only the physical symptoms, he argued, often just covers up the origin. A shift in attitude, moving up the consciousness scale, could lead to surprisingly rapid healing.
Mind-body connection, taken to a deeper level.
Much deeper level, yeah. Connected to these energy fields. Think about sports, too. Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile. Hawkins would say Bannister didn't just run fast. He broke through a collective limiting belief system. He created a new M field, a morphogenetic field, a new pattern of possibility in the collective consciousness, making it suddenly much easier for others to do it too. That's the power of transcending old paradigms.
Shifting the collective field. Wow.
Or art. He mentions the French film, The Big Blue, about freediving. He apparently calibrated at 700, Enlightenment level. He suggests that art operating at such high energy levels can actually lift the viewer's consciousness, even temporarily transport them to those higher states.
Art as a spiritual tool.
Absolutely. And martial arts, the best teachers often emphasize, stop trying to use force. It's about alignment, timing, using the opponent's energy principles of power rather than just brute strength, which is force. Victory of the higher self.
And genius. Is that just high IQ?
Not according to Hawkins. He defines genius as an extraordinarily high degree of insight, often correlating with high consciousness levels, above 400. Geniuses, he observed, often live simply, value integrity deeply, and aren't driven by fame or gain. Society, unfortunately, often doesn't know how to recognize or nurture them.
Fascinating.
Okay,
one more area. Spirituality and religion. How does he distinguish them using this framework?
It's a crucial distinction. He points out the U.S. government, for instance, can't establish a specific religion, but its fundamental authority derives from spiritual principles like justice, liberty, equality, which calibrate high.
So principles versus dogma.
Kind of. He talks about the devolution of truth. For example, he calibrated the original teachings of Jesus Christ at 1,000 pure enlightenment. But the historical practice and dogma of institutional Christianity over centuries, that fell to around 498, just below love.
Why the drop?
Misinterpretations, political entanglement, inclusion of vengeful Old Testament concepts, which calibrate much lower, focus on sin and guilt, levels 30, things that diluted the original power.
And other religions.
He contrasts this with, say, militant Islamic fundamentalism, which he calibrated way down at 130, anger hate. He stressed this isn't critique of Islam itself, core teachings might calibrate high, but of the fundamentalist interpretation.
Because fundamentalism, by definition, is rigid and often based on hate.
Exactly. He saw fundamentalism, regardless of the banner, as operating from hate and exclusion, essentially the same low level as criminality, distorting the original power of the founding teachings.
But spirituality itself, connecting to a higher power, that is powerful.
Immensely powerful. He uses Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, as a perfect practical example. Millions recover from addiction not through willpower alone, which often fails, but by acknowledging a higher power, relinquishing the ego's insistence on going it alone, force, and aligning with something greater power. That surrender leads to healing.
So letting go of force allows power to come through.
That's the essence of it, which leads to some really deep implications about how reality even works.
Deeper than muscle testing.
Oh yeah. Hawkins challenges the simple linear idea of cause and effect. A causes B causes C.
Okay.
He suggests that what we observe as events, A, B, C, are actually just manifestations arising from invisible, underlying attractor patterns. Like the pattern ABC itself is the real cause.
The pattern is the source, not the sequence.
Sort of. Think of iron filings on paper. You move a magnet underneath an invisible force field, and the filings arrange into a visible pattern. The magnet's field is the underlying cause. The pattern is the effect. The connection between events might lie more in the observer's consciousness or the underlying field than in the events themselves.
My brain hurts a little.
It's mind-bending stuff. He draws parallels with advanced physics, like David Bohm's theory of the implicate and extricate order.
Meaning?
Bohm proposed the universe has two aspects: the visible, tangible world we experience, the explicate or unfolded order, and a deeper, invisible, interconnected reality from which the visible world arises, the implicate or unfolded order.
Like the reality behind the curtain.
Exactly. Hawkins suggests consciousness, these M fields, these attractor patterns, they all operate in that implicate, invisible realm. What we see is just the readout, the manifestation. It helps explain how seemingly chaotic events can have an underlying order, as chaos theory also suggests.
So these invisible fields are constantly influencing us.
Yes, and this is a critical warning in the book. He talks about silent and invisible entrainment from negative attractor fields.
Entrainment, like being pulled in.
Yeah. Things like pervasive negative news cycles, certain destructive music genres, cynical philosophies. Even if you consciously disagree with them, their underlying low energy patterns can still negatively affect your psyche, your mood, your energy level without you realizing.
Like passive smoking for the soul.
That's a great way to put it. It's an unconscious drag, pulling your overall state down.
Okay, that sounds a bit worrying. Is there hope?
Absolutely. Here's the profoundly optimistic part. Hawkins insists that salvation is indeed possible. Why? Because the energy of a single loving thought or a moment of courage or acceptance is logarithmically enormously more powerful than a negative thought or influence.
So positive energy packs way more punch.
Way more. Humanity, he believed, holds the power for its own upliftment within its collective consciousness. Every single time you make a choice for kindness, forgiveness, integrity, every time you raise your own consciousness even a little,
It helps everyone.
it literally improves the world at large. It adds to the collective positive energy field, increasing our common buoyancy, making it easier for everyone else too. Your inner work has outer effects.
That's a powerful responsibility and opportunity.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it reframes morality. Hawkins says the whole struggle with right and wrong is mostly a feature of the lower levels of consciousness, below 200.
How so?
As consciousness rises towards love and peace, judgment and moralism tend to fall away, replaced by discernment and compassion. You just see what's beneficial and what's not, without needing rigid rules. The real problem isn't that people are inherently bad. It's humanity's general lack of ability to distinguish truth from falsehood, power from force.
So the solution isn't more rules, but more consciousness.
Exactly. To augment the light of discernment, as he put it. To raise our collective ability to recognize and choose power over force.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for someone listening? What does this deep dive into power versus force mean for you?
I think it offers this incredibly practical, if challenging lens to look at your own life.
Okay.
It suggests that everything you do, think, feel, consume, It's constantly aligning you, subtly or obviously, with either the depleting energy of force or the uplifting energy of power.
So it invites you to become more aware of those alignments.
Definitely. Think about the unseen forces, the news you watch, the music you listen to, the people you hang out with, the thoughts you entertain. How might they be influencing your decisions, your mood, your relationships, even your physical health? Are they pulling you down or lifting you up?
And the provocative thought maybe is, what if choosing things like compassion, integrity, forgiveness, love, what if that isn't just, being a good person in a moral sense?
Right. What if it's actually a scientifically sound strategy based on these energetic principles for increasing your own resilience, your buoyancy, raising your own state of being?
And how could you consciously use that understanding, not just for yourself, but maybe to positively influence your family, your workplace, your community, lifting the world around you, even in small ways?
Because, as Hawkins suggests, the universe is fundamentally cooperative. It tends to give us back what we put out. If you look for reasons to be fearful or angry for us, you'll find them. But if you choose to look for and embody love and power,
The universe might just reflect that back too, something to really chew on.